Before we begin today's episode, we'd like to extend our gratitude to our sponsors at Avid for the incredible opportunity to raffle off a 1-year subscription to Media Composer as a thank you for watching. To enter, please visit postinblack.com/Avid and submit your information. The link will remain active for 1 week, and then the winner will be announced the next day via email and in an IG post on our social media. Thanks so much and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Post in Black, where we celebrate Black excellence behind the lens. Today, we are thrilled to have none other than Fanshen Cox with us, the DEIA manager of the California Film Commission, the host of the Sista Brunch podcast, and an executive producer, and actually has her own production company, TruJuLo Productions. Did I say it right?
You said it perfectly.
Come on.
Yes.
That's a little practice. We are out here. Thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, my goodness. It's my pleasure. I love this podcast. I love everything you all do. I'm so glad we're finding ways to collaborate out in the community doing live events. So you're welcome and thank you.
No, we appreciate you because even you reached out, a few times and we were able to get up together and just introduce and be there for Lillian Benson at an event that you did.
Yes.
And then you reached out to us in the collaboration, and there's a lot of synergy. So we're happy to have you. We also want to just thank our title sponsor, Dolby. We want to thank Avid for supporting sponsor. Without them, this episode would not be possible. So I want to show out some love.
Thank you. Post-production professionals.
Come on.
I know that's how y'all started.
Right.
And I know you're expanding.
Right. We are.
Love myself some post-production professionals.
Have to. We're going to jump into a lot of things, but before we start, we do have an icebreaker as we always do. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Bring it.
So obviously this episode is airing at a later date, but both of us had a birthday in the greatest month of all time, February.
Greatest month of all, Black History Month, Valentine's Day, so many, and us. And we were born in
We are Black history.
We sure are.
That's what they say.
And Black futures.
Exactly, and Black futures.
Yes.
So because of that, on the 25th of February and the 26th, we had our birthdays.
Yes.
We celebrating some milestones.
Yes.
What is the most memorable birthday that you have had? And you don't have to talk about an age, but talk about maybe something you did on the day.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the age because I feel good about my age.
Come on.
So I'm 55 this year, and it was my 50th birthday party, which was the COVID year.
Wow.
So it was, of course, in February, and I think it might have been the last kind of big outdoor but in-person event that I attended was my own birthday. And it was just lovely because I had a bunch of all my people, my community here in California and Hollywood come out and celebrate. That was also the night of the NAACP Image Awards, which I was not invited to, but all my friends who went came afterwards. And it was just lovely. Now I got to know yours. What's your favorite?
That's funny. You mentioned the COVID year because my birthday was the last event that a lot of people were able to go out. We all went out to karaoke in Culver City and had a great night. And then the next week, it was insane. I would say my 21st birthday, I was at Hampton University and my friends threw me a party. And we had so many people. And that was just, I'm aging myself. I just turned 40, y'all. I just turned 40. Oh, my goodness. It's crazy. But I feel great.
It's a great age.
It's a great age.
You should feel great. That's a great age.
But what I'm about to say is what's going to age me.
Uh-oh.
We didn't have any phones. It wasn't a lot of social media. People pulled up to the party and we had the music and we just had fun. And it was vibes for sure. So it was like crazy. Going into my senior year at Hampton University, 21st birthday party. That was amazing.
I love it. And how about if we just commit that we'll do a double birthday party at some point, and that'll be our new favorite birthday party.
I love it.
Ever.
I love it. See, that's the producer side coming out right there. Yeah. You gotta tell the people a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do. Obviously, we know about the birthday and everything, but your production company, everything. Where are you from and how did you get involved in entertainment?
Yes. Okay. So it does start with my birth, and I promise you I'm not gonna go through my whole life, but it's important because my parents chose my first name for a reason.
Yeah.
So my first name is Fanshen. It's Chinese, and
Wow.
I'm not Chinese at all. My father's Jamaican, Jamaican immigrant, came here in the 50s to go to school. My mother is white, Danish background, Cherokee, and Blackfeet Indian.
Wow.
So the two of them met. They were not supposed to be together, at all in this world, but they fell in love, and they became Black Panthers together. They became very politically active, and they decided that they wanted to raise their children outside of the United States.
Wow.
So they were reading a lot of books, doing research on different countries, kind of where they could raise us, and they read this book, Fanshen. So Fanshen is a Chinese word, a kind of a symbol for a small village in China. It means to turn over or turn the body over.
Yeah.
But to this little village in China, it meant to change all the power structures.
Wow.
Yeah. So my parents were like, this is what we want for our children, is to change it. Revolution, essentially, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so all to say.
It makes sense what you're doing now. My goodness.
This is what brought me into entertainment. I mean, and early on, I moved out to LA as an actor. And, there were definitely some questionable auditions where I'm like, this is not exactly that Revolution thing, right? Auditioning for the commercial for Budweiser Ho #3, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I started to realize that the only way that I was really going to have opportunities as an actor was to write my own scripts and produce and learn all of those things. I was in Project Involve, Film Independence Project Involve, one of my favorite programs for workforce development, kind of for teaching filmmakers, the ropes and giving mentorship. And eventually I went back to school. I went to Cal State LA.
Okay, yeah.
Did my MFA there, and that's where I wrote a one-woman show and started to produce that show. That did really well. And so acting-wise, I was happy with that, kind of touring. I ended up touring across the country with the show, different colleges and universities. But I also, about a year into that, so I grew up with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
Wait. You grew up with them. Like, they're the friends in the neighborhood and just...
Oh, yeah, no. Like, Matt and I were best friends when we were 9.
Insane.
I know.
Insane.
I know. So we, his older brother was my older brother's best friend, so we would kind of tag along with the two of them.
Yeah.
But it turned out we both wanted to be actors. And so we did theater together in high school, and Ben came in after freshman year.
Yeah.
And we had this incredible theater department. They really cared about telling stories that would give the opportunity for the broadest representation for cast and crew.
Right.
Really looked outside of those kids that had the resources and, could easily, stay after school. Like, they really wanted to pull in the whole community. So that's how we all grew up together.
Right.
I talk a little bit about growing up in my one-woman show.
Yeah.
Ben came to see the show at my thesis performance on the little black box theater at Cal State LA. Called Matt and said, this is really great. Let's help her out. And so they became executive producers of the show. And that kind of, that planted seeds for the rest of my time here.
I mean, my goodness. and that little nugget right there is just an amazing fact. But it's like one of those things where he was Ben when you're growing up. And then you're becoming who you are, and then he's becoming that. But that genuine relationship, that friendship is what sparked everything else.
100%.
You went from having them help produce and help out with the one-woman show to actually running a part of their company with Pearl Street Films. Can you talk about that and the mindset behind that? Because that producing mindset of your own one-woman show across the states, I'm sure that helped with development and other projects. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it helped so much. And I still tap into a lot of the skills that I learned when I was producing the show. But it's worthwhile mentioning how I ended up working at Pearl Street.
I was going to say, are you going to talk about that? They'll talk about it,
Yeah, so after they came on board as executive producers, I was very excited because I saw that they were doing, and this was before I was working at Artistry, they were doing a new iteration of Project Greenlight.
Right.
And so I was like, yes, they're gonna give a filmmaker an opportunity, and I know them, and we know how we grew up. We know we're gonna make sure that there are broad opportunities. However, I'm watching the pilot episode, and Effie Brown, who is one of my all-time favorite producers, and Black woman is, asks everybody before we move forward, and she says, as we all need to do, with all love in my heart,
right.
Can we consider representation or diversity? I think she said, before we choose the winner.
Yeah,
because it was kind of clear that potentially a person who didn't really need a lot of, in my opinion, didn't need a whole lot of resources, already had a lot, was going to win. And so I think she wanted to just say, hey, let's stop and think about this. Matt, then they cut to his talking head, and he says, you do diversity in front of the camera, not behind the camera, and some other very unfortunate things.
And then took off. Yeah.
And my first response was like, oh, okay, well, the principles and values that we grew up with have changed, right? Like we're just different now. We see the world differently.
Yeah.
We have, kind of different commitments around that. But being their friends, I called them immediately and was like,
what are we doing?
Yeah. And I think, all of us who work in this industry know how helpful it is to have somebody who knows us to come in and, not necessarily shame you but to just kind of have a conversation like what's going on.
Right.
And that those conversations we had eventually led to my working at Pearl Street.
Which is powerful because everybody on the front end, we don't know that story. I saw that, and it's a viral clip that still pops up every now, social media, Instagram, the algorithm. But I didn't even know that we're sitting down with one of the people that, from that moment is the reason why you were brought in even more to help, right the ship and get some things straight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Was it an easy process to transition? Obviously you're friends, but you're coming in there now, and it's like, not to be, just be direct. You don't want to be the Black person that says, okay, now I'm here to save and make everybody look good, and you're like in front. But what was that? Yeah. What was that like?
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy at all. I mean, for one, honestly, I didn't, I had never worked on that end of things in the industry. I had never worked for a company that had to deal with a studio, all of these things.
Yeah.
I was just this independent, producer, did some short films in school, so that whole world was very different for me. And when you are someone who is pushing for change in the industry, especially folks in positions of power have gotten very comfortable, and that's not just Ben and Matt, that's their attorneys, that's their agents, that's everybody else. And when you reach that level of power, very few people tell you the truth. So when I was the person speaking the truth, it was angry Black woman. She's too aggressive. She's, so that was really, really challenging.
Yeah.
Really hard.
And to that point, I want to talk about that because we've had this conversation with our post-production professionals. You're feeling that, and people.
Right.
These individuals. How much more is that for someone that's the editor in a room for a studio film? Or a composer or, Foley artist, whatever the case may be, working. And it's like, man, I want to speak up. I want to say something. But if I don't, how is this going to reflect on me? Maybe I'll get to finish the job, but it might affect my next job.
It will. I mean, we have ample evidence that it will, that you literally can't, you can't say anything.
Right.
And you have to sit there and swallow it and then, go home and hopefully have community that uplifts you and you can talk to about it. But yeah, it's
something.
Yeah. needs to change.
It needs to change, and
needs
part
to
it needs to change and the shift,
right.
like you were, like your name.
Yes,
you are the author of the inclusion writer, and obviously, I feel like this is a interesting segue to talk about that.
Yeah.
What is the inclusion writer for those that don't know?
Yes. So I'll make sure that I give credit where credit is due. I'm a co-author with two other women.
Right.
So, no, that's okay. Yeah. No, Dr. Stacy Smith, who works at USC and Annenberg Inclusion Initiative and does a lot of data analysis on representation in the industry. The other woman is Kalpana Kodagal, who is an expert in labor law. She was a civil rights attorney for a very long time and now is at the EEOC, appointed by former President Biden. So the inclusion rider is a clause that you can add to your contract. So A-listers, anybody in a position of power, when they're negotiating their contracts with a studio, a production company, can ask for this rider. And so I always make sure people know this is R-I-D-E-R, not W-R-I-T-E-R, right? So a rider, there are a lot of folks, I mean, you've probably done this, David, as a working actor. When you get to a certain level, when you're negotiating, you can say, I want a certain kind of trailer.
Yeah.
Right. And anything that's added to the legal language is called a rider.
Right.
Our writer said that the production commits to a process of inclusive hiring. And so there are steps in the process. The first step is modeled on the Rooney Rule, the NFL Rooney Rule. You know about that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's sort of, we'll talk about it, but it's sort of like for the NFL, it feels like they just get it out the way. Let's get these black guys in here and then say we interviewed some and then we'll go to the candidate that we want to hire. It's almost a farce sometimes, but I digress.
That's right. No, that's right. And and we knew that we couldn't stop there, but we did appreciate that the Rooney Rule was that for every open position, I think it was for assistant coaches, for every open position, that they would commit to interviewing, right? Interviewing, X number of people of color, for those roles. So that is our very first step for the inclusion rider is, are you broadening the pool of candidates in the first place?
Yeah, that's important.
Because as you know, Hollywood always goes with folks they know already.
Right.
And if you're in a position of power, you are typically a cis white male. Right. And so the people you know are also cis white men.
Right.
Right. We're saying, no, from jump, you are actually thinking more about, you're thinking outside of the typical places that you would go to for hiring, just like the Rooney Rule.
And this has become a triggering topic because, with certain people saying certain things, it's like, oh, well, they're not qualified. No, these people are qualified. It's just there's a lack of knowledge about who is there.
Thank you. And more than qualified.
And that's the thing. And so I guess I'm gonna jump around just a second.
Please.
What does it look like? Like, obviously, we're talking about a writer for actors, and you were so kind saying, David, you probably reached that in your career. I'm still working to get my brown M&Ms. You know what I mean?
Look, we gonna get you there. We gonna get there.
Yes. But it's not there yet. But we working on it. But how does someone, Michael B. Jordan, they can get the writer. He was working with his projects and including that for all of his projects.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. But what does it look like for the unknown, and I say unknown in quotations, post-professional? What does it look like for, the re-recording mixer? What does it look like for our people in post who are just trying to get there, the assistant editor who wants to be an editor?
Yep.
What is the step to get included in this, and how does DEI play, an important part on the project? Like, that's just all of that right there.
Yeah. So I will say that the inclusion rider is designed for a particular group, and that is A-listers and other people that are in positions of power to negotiate their contracts. Right. So that, that 4-step process is what they do. And for me at Pearl Street, it was, okay, here's a tool for y'all to use. I can't do anything about it. Nobody's gonna listen to us around that, right? Like we're not able to go in and say we want this and that.
Right.
That's for the folks that have that power. That's for Michael B. Jordan, right? That's for Brie Larson, who also agreed to use it, right? Y'all do that. What we need to do, so in fact, at Pearl Street, once the inclusion rider was written, after Frances McDormand talked about it at the Oscars, it blew up, right? And that was wonderful. And at that point, we were kind of like, this is in y'all's hands now, right? Like we 3 women, 2 women of color, we can't do anything more. This is for you.
Right.
I then shifted my work and focus at Pearl Street to development because I understood that by helping projects get made, look at all the people you can hire.
Yes.
So I always say to anybody, post-production, actors, everybody, learn how to do all of it. And find folks, find the writers, find directors, find the folks that you want to work with, and let's make our own stuff.
Facts. Say that again for the people.
I'll say it again. Let's make our own. I mean, this
stuff.
Like this,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Nobody you didn't wait for permission. You were like, we want to tell these stories, and y'all got this amazing. I mean, this is truly like, look at this. Look at this.
And I love it. And it's like, yeah, we definitely Post and Black, we want to get our own studio, but it's amazing to come to Dr. Self-Tape because the more that we come here, the more people get to see them. Hopefully more people continue to book and they just blow up. And
let's call it a Black-owned studio.
Y'all like the way this looks? Y'all like the way, Fanshen shining? Y'all see us out here? Come on. You see us? We out here.
Nice.
Out here. Clean. And that's because of Dr. Self-Tape. Shout out to my people.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm jumping a little bit.
Oh, good.
What is the state of the industry? We could just talk about from your perspective. Like, what is going on right now in Hollywood? Hollyweird, the nickname. What's happening even from your end in development of projects, or you're seeing? Because we know people in post-production that haven't worked in a while.
Yeah.
What is happening from your standpoint? And is there something that's changing?
So there's, I'll talk about it in 2 different categories. So one is representation. And in terms of that, ain't nothing happening. It's either worse. And it goes in these waves where sometimes things get a little better. You know, since we dated this episode and we just talked about our birthdays, that means the Oscars are coming up.
Right.
This year is not good.
Oh, no.
Right? After all that work, after even, the Oscars themselves, the Academy committing to doing better and having these standards, is still not good, right? So the state of representation, not good. Lots more work to do.
Right.
Then on top of that, we take the state of the industry, which is depressed. I mean, we are and especially in California, we are in a deep depression. There aren't a lot of jobs. The fires, the dual strikes, the pandemic prior to that. It's rough out here.
Yeah, and that is real. And I guess how do you manage yourself, like you seeing people, leaving the industry altogether, leaving California altogether. Where is the light at the end of the tunnel that we can give people encouragement? Is it even there? Or is it just?
Yes. Yeah. It's absolutely there. Okay. So at the same time, basically what's happening is the industry is changing.
It is.
There's podcasts now. We don't have to ask the gatekeepers. We don't have to beg, even as actors, we don't have to beg people who don't even understand our stories, our perspectives anyway. So even before, when they would take on our projects, by the time it got out, I mean, did you hear that like the Harriet Tubman movie originally, they were looking at casting Julia Roberts? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that mentality is still there. So that kind of what I refer to as like the old guard, they are sticking very strongly to very kind of status quo traditional. We have these new platforms that it was their Black audience that helped them grow, right? As we always do. As we always do. So one of these days, we're going to own that platform and it'll be us. So absolutely, there's hope. There's hope in this. There's hope in us finally being like, you know what? We have to create our own stuff now.
Have to.
Right? So
Have
what if, y'all are doing a short film, so we we get a group of people, we all put our resources towards that short film.
Yeah.
That gets done. What if we put our resources towards making an independent TV series that gets done, right?
Yeah.
Like I see beautiful things happening in community. That's how it's going to happen.
I think you're absolutely right, because that's the it says in Tupac's book, the poem, "The Rose That Grew from Concrete." It's like usually in the struggle, that's where creativity is born.
Absolutely,
You know what I mean? Like you think of
yes.
all these things to do because you didn't have much to do. I'm wondering how it is for you right now, and I want to talk back a little bit about your podcast as well. But how are you managing the inclusion focus of your product, like your life in general with the climate? Obviously, the government is going and doing what it's doing. People are scared, and then you are operating in a title, in a position that has letters in it that has now been demonized. How are you operating and facilitating your work on that?
Full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead.
Full steam ahead. What else is there to do?
Come on.
What else is there to do?
Y'all don't know. I don't know if you're just listening to this right now, but she didn't blink when she said that. She said full steam ahead and stood straight. 10 toes down, as they say.
Yes. Yes,
I feel it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm more than proud to have DEIA in my title.
Yeah.
Full steam ahead. No stopping.
Yeah.
The inclusion rider is a legal contract, right? But we were very strategic in making sure that it was completely on the up and up legally. And affirmative action has been illegal in California since the 90s, unfortunately. But that also means that California is very strategic in terms of how we do make sure that we are still making efforts towards inclusion and equity. So bring it. Like we're here. We're here. We're going to stay here. We're going to keep doing this work.
Exactly. Are there resources that people can reach out for and reach to get more information about how they maybe can protect themselves or gain more information about navigating this changing industry that you know about?
Resources. We're our resources. Community is our resource. Tapping into each other, watching each other continue, supporting one another and continuing to do the work.
Yeah.
We have to continue to show up.
Yeah.
That is how we demonstrate that we're not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I get it, especially financially. So I want to, acknowledge that you and I have the privilege of still being here and, having the means to be able to still be here to pursue this. And not everybody does. But even if you are going back home to somewhere or leaving LA, that doesn't mean the work stops.
Right.
At all. You're still creative.
Yeah.
You got a studio in your pocket.
Right.
Matthew Cherry shot 9 rides on his cell phone.
Exactly.
Like we keep creating because as you said, this is the time when our stories are most powerful and impactful is when we are facing this kind of thing. So we are our own resources.
Yeah. No, we are. We are resources, and we got to tap into community. And speaking of community, you've been building your own community as well.
Yeah.
If you had your shirt, you showed it off a little bit. Sista Brunch podcast.
Yes.
That is why, obviously, this interview is going as well as it is, just because you're so used to the banter back and forth. But can you talk about Sista Brunch podcast and how it came about and what it is that you are doing over there with your team?
Absolutely. Proudly.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing that I do. When I was kind of the inclusion writer was moving forward at Pearl Street, I got invited to a Sista Brunch. So I didn't know what it was, but it turns out that women of color in the DGA training program would get together on the weekends with their mentors and really spill all the tea, all the experiences that they've had, and really be mentors for each other and guys and build community.
Right.
And meanwhile, with the inclusion writer, we kept being told, you trying to force us to hire all these people, but they don't exist. They're not qualified, blah, blah, blah. And I go to my first Sista Brunch, and it is this large circle of some badass Black, brown women. And I was like, oh, they're lying. And I couldn't say that before. I mean, I knew it, but I wasn't, visibly seeing the numbers and the experience levels of all of these folks. So Anya Adams, who is now a woman directing nonstop, so too busy for the podcast anymore. But Anya was the host that time, and I called her afterwards, and I was like, we need everybody to hear these women's stories. Because that way, number one, they're not just a number. They're not, you hear their whole journey and you hear how experienced they are. So when you say the next time that you can't find somebody, we have an entire episode about a particular woman, cinematographer, editor, etc. They're like, no, that's just not true. Because for her, there are at least 10 others who are just as experienced. So we then brought on Christabel and Siabwadi, who is an incredible producer, audio producers, worked with NPR, and worked with Spotify, and then just that was also COVID years. We got to do one live episode at Santa Monica City College, and then everything shut down, and then we did everything virtually, and we're on season 6. And still going, yes.
Season 6, we're in season 6. It's meant to be. I mean, this is
all around. I love it.
It's supposed to be. It's powerful what you do, because it is that community and it's empowering. And I love it. And I love watching the interviews and everyone just, you want to have an opportunity to share your story, to share and be validated in sometimes a world, and a lot of times in our industry where we're not. We're looking for ways to stand out, but we kind of feel a little muffled. And so you highlighting all the women that you have done, editors, cinematographers, producers, all the people, showrunners, there's a plethora of people over there. So it's just kudos to you and your team. You use
the perfect wording is like the empowering and the validating, right? We don't get that enough.
No.
People don't value our stories. And we do our episode, we kind of record up front, batch record, and then plan all of the marketing and everything. And then we celebrate that guest for a whole week. We are, every single day that week, we're like, we love you. We see you. We're here for you. We're your hype person, right? And then once you're a guest, you're always part of the Sista Brunch family, right? And exactly. We also started working with Black Girls Film Camp. My niece was in it a year ago. So on our previous season and this season, we have 3 Black Girls Film Camp co-hosts. So that this is why we did it, right? Because we didn't see people that looked like us when we were doing it. Now these girls are not only seeing it, they're part of the podcast, right? And they're making their own movies. They've got short films already.
And I love what you said about like creating your own, which allows you to hire. That's one of the main reasons, even starting out as an actor and still acting, but wanting to produce. I said, look how many people we can hire, not in terms of like being a boss, but I love living in LA and I want friends to stay living in LA and working. And what better way for us to get money so that we can make more movies? That's Walt Disney's quote. He said, we don't make movies to make money, we make money to make more movies. And that's just the stamp. Now, money is nice too.
It's nice too.
But you know what I mean?
It's nice too. And I am a little.
You feel me?
We struggle a little too much.
Hey,
I will say. In fact, we incorporated into the podcast this season. I mean, we've always done it a little bit. In this season, we're like, no, we're going to ask every single guest about financials. And it's so important, right? Number one is just like knowing where to start. If you do get a chance to negotiate so that you don't have that imposter syndrome, you know where you can start, right? And every guest always says that is that one place where they wish they hadn't had the imposter syndrome they had, especially when they find out what other people are making,
That's
right?
Big.
And I'm like, yes, we need to have that conversation openly so that those folks coming up already know.
Exactly. Exactly. No, I love that. And that's a kind of a piece of advice. But what piece of advice would you give for anyone? I guess that one of the biggest things that sticks out to you, you say, I always advise people this, whether it's from producing, whether it's from the inclusion writer, Sista Brunch, what is a piece of advice that you feel like you need to navigate in the industry?
Yeah. I'll say, and you are very good at this, David Hunter Jr., because you've done this. I've seen you do this. We've seen each other in a few rooms now.
Yeah.
Every single room you walk into, know that you belong there.
Come on.
Every time, every room, you belong there.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are lucky to have you in that room.
I don't know what else I need to say right there. I mean, that is powerful. That is powerful, and that's real. And I think that truth, this authenticity, is what sticks out.
Yes.
It took a long time to get there for myself in certain places, but that's real. Every
Agreed.
room,
and it's intentional. Guess what? It's intentional for us to feel like we don't belong.
Yeah.
We need to know that we belong, because that's that first step, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're acting, whether you're directing, any of those, you need to bring a sense of confidence. People need to believe, producers, right? People need to believe in you. And so you have to start knowing.
Yeah.
And you believing in yourself, knowing that you walk in and you belong there.
Yeah. That's what we want to do with Posting Black. That's what my brother started. You know what I mean? We wanted to really provide a space where you can feel that validation. We can show you love. It's not about everybody else. Yes, I'm an actor, but it ain't about me.
Yeah.
It's about you.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing.
Yes.
Where can people keep in touch with you? What you got going on next that we can know and stay and tap in with you? Like, we want to stay connected.
Oh, please do. Yes. So follow Sista Brunch on Instagram at Sista Brunch Podcast.
Yeah.
And I say that, one, obviously we want to promote, right, and get people to listen. But two, another reason why we do this show is that I want folks to see the guests and then send that guest a DM, or find them on LinkedIn, say, I saw your episode, will you have a virtual coffee with me?
Yeah.
If you want to be a writer, find our writers. If you want to be an editor, find our editors.
Yeah.
Listen to the episode. Because what you and I know, when you're networking, one of the most important things you can do is to bring up something personal, give the person a specific, authentic compliment.
Right.
So you have the benefit of hearing their whole story. You find out they grew up in Virginia, be like, by the way, I grew up in Virginia. Right? Like we did just now.
Yeah.
So So please listen to the episodes, uplift these. And I should say we're women and gender expansive people. So non-binary, trans folks, listen and lift these folks up. Right. Support them, pay it forward, because it'll come back to you. You can also watch the episodes on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/TruJuLo Media. Yeah. And I will say, your pronunciation was perfect for TruJuLo. TruJuLo stands for Truth, Justice, and Love. So that's what our company does. We uplift stories that speak truth in pursuit of justice and service of love.
Yeah.
So watch us there.
I didn't say this, but if there's a word to describe you, it's intentional. It's been written from the beginning.
Yes.
Your parents with the name, everything that you do, inclusion writer, Sista Brunch Podcast.
Well, see, now I got to show you my tattoo.
Come on.
It says, "We made you on purpose," which is what our parents always told us. So yes,
every single thing is intentional.
Yeah,
it's real. It's been a pleasure, Fanshen. We're gonna keep building. We're gonna keep working. Obviously, if you guys are following us on social media, you see we're shouting out Sista Brunch. This is a partnership this year that we're going to be building on. So we want to thank Fanshen so much for being here on the podcast. Make sure you follow her. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you can stay tapped in with all the episodes here at Posting Black. We thank Dolby again for sponsoring us. Thank Avid, our supporting sponsor. And shout out to the Marathon Clothing for this t-shirt right here. We are doing all Black-owned products for the rest of the season and for the rest of everything here at Posting Black. Till next time, stay Black.